hyperlinks between documents. I think you're on mute.
Oopsies. Thanks, guys. Looking at this list as a whole, is this something that you're thinking, yep, that describes something that I know or something that I use? Or are you looking at this saying, no, this is a couple different types of databases or a stitching together of a data layer?
Yeah. I would say, because the DBAs, this is kind of their job to make sure that the databases are, they're good for use. So all of these things that we listed, that's something that, they work towards. So I would say I kind of forgot your question, but I
was kind of
because
does
we
it
use it,
exist, or is this something that you stitch together as part of does it exist in one place? Is there one solution or service that you know of that sort of checks all these boxes?
I wouldn't say all the boxes. I think maybe 70% of the boxes.
Okay, so what hits 70%?
So everything on the left side, well, minus the cost. So everything minus the cost on the left side. The star at the two at the bottom, and also, actually no, the last three, yeah.
Okay, and what database are you thinking of?
Also, the one that I use at my job primarily, we use Oracle SQL.
Okay, Oracle SQL. Okay. Sai, what about you? Do you know of anything that sort of fits this bill?
So yeah, I can talk about schema-less databases, so the advantages are I can think about is there is no need to stick to a rigid schema. You won't be thinking about the tables or the models of the database. You're not worried about it, and also of course you won't be worried about the data types you would be using. But and also you can of course you can store both structured and unstructured data, but I'm not sure how the data security would be in the schema-less database because I have no experience in using them, so I haven't read about them. So
okay.
I'm not sure if that would be a concern when you are thinking about a database.
So looking at the list as a whole, though, is there something are there any database solutions out there that you know of that hit all or most of these, that describes all or most of these?
Yeah, so definitely not schema-less. If I remove that, most of the databases, of course, NoSQL, Cassandra, and also MySQL Server would be having most of the features.
Okay, all right. Okay, let me save that and we can move on to the next thing. Okay, so that was a list of our, must-haves. Now I want to talk about your, wish list. So what are the things that you need beyond what we've talked about, or maybe including what we've talked about? What are the things that if you were to say, if I had a data layer that did these things, then I would never have to use another data layer again? Maybe it's not I would never have to use another data layer again, but this would be amazing for me if I could have a data layer that did X, Y, and Z. So what are some of the things that come to mind? Charlie?
I don't know. I mean, nothing really pops up like something that would be a must-have that I don't already have, because it doesn't really, because that last slide seemed like it was trying to combine two different forms of data layers, you're either going NoSQL or you're going, relational. So it's, I mean, you can have links between documents in NoSQL, but it's more like a simulated, because you can't really do joins. You can do MapReduce stuff, but so because I worked at another place before this place. I was there for like 10 years, and I used tons of Mongo, and it was after a couple of years where you just really hate not being able to do joins. You're embedding a bunch of data, and it's just like, it just gets really messy. Now, that'd be great if there was a NoSQL database that actually had some of the functions that were embedded with relational databases. Then yeah, that'd be awesome. But there's nothing I've ever heard of that's like that. I mean, Postgres does allow like JSON, where you can do queries on JSONs in columns, but
Okay.
yeah, there's nothing else.
Okay. Anybody else? Things that you're thinking of in a wish list?
So for me, a data layer should provide the analytic strategies. So like how many times we are calling the database, like number of calls is happening. And whenever you have a web page, the number of times you are some of the data layers offers these features. It gives number of times you are visiting it, and number of, suppose you are visiting a shopping cart. Number of times you are clicking that product, that would be, those analytics would be given for some of the data layers. So I would go with that.
Okay. Anybody else?
So these are like nice to haves.
Yeah, or just like in an ideal world, if you had a database that you're like, oh, if we could only do this, this would be amazing. Or maybe you've thought of like, perhaps you've actually interacted with an app as a user or know of an application where they're doing something kind of amazing with data and you would love to do that someday. Like examples that are sort of a maybe someday either wish list or I know of this thing, it's really awesome. I don't do it, but I'd like to do it someday.
I don't know, but I know whenever I have to deal with the database now, our MySQL database is just very bland, the GUI for it, so if we could have one with like a super cool interface, I think that would help me be a little more cheerful when I have to deal with it.
Anyway, okay, like, you want a more cheerful GUI? Got it.
I would throw in there, just from a user standpoint, almost the same way you're talking about a GUI. I would talk about it from a programming standpoint. Simplicity in the methods used to call the database in an application. I think that, there's plenty of good solutions out there, but it can always be better, and it can always be more simple, and things that interface with modern front end in a way that is intuitive, more intuitive than I think some of the things that are out there now. That would be nice to have.
Give me an example of something out there that's like relatively intuitive. Maybe it could be improved upon, but is an example of an easy.
Sure.
Yeah.
So for transparency, like the things I've built have used a Mongo backend. So, Mongoose is something that I've used. I haven't built much outside of that. I'm kind of in the research phase, but, I feel like it's fairly intuitive. If I need to find something, I'm looking at find one, or a find. But I think having a structured set of, CRUD commands that are all very simple in how they interact with one another, and trying to kind of get to a place where, like I said, it may be things that are further developed into ways that front end can access them a little bit more quickly. Kind of speaks to that idea of a GUI being something that is more easy to manipulate on the front end. And again, it's all possible right now. I just think it could be easier. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at.
How is the Mongo GUI?
So I use one called Robo3T. and Studio 3T. It's a